Today we're going to explore petroleum jelly, otherwise known as Vaseline, but this was just a no-name brand that I got at my local H-E-B, and crayons. Now, why am I doing this? Because on one of my more popular videos, which was all about colored pencils, inexpensive colored pencils, and Vaseline, and I'll link that in the description down below if you would like to check out that video as well, because I'm not going to talk about that today. But in that video, I received so many questions about, does this work with crayons? And my honest answer was, I don't know. I've never tried it before. And so I thought it would be fun to just kind of explore the idea of mixing these two ingredients together, because the ingredients should match. They should work similarly to how colored pencils and petroleum jelly work together, because crayons are made of paraffin wax, just the same way as inexpensive colored pencils are. So I created this little, I guess, lesson plan to kind of go through it and explore whether or not crayons and petroleum jelly are kind of a fun combo to play in coloring. So first off, I know we know what crayons look like, but for the sake of all my visual viewers, you're all visual, but some people are visual like me. Like, I learn more when I see stuff happening. So I want to color just a little bit so that we can remember what coloring with crayons looks like. Now, this is something I did not do in advance, which I probably should have, which was choose a color. Let's see, and I'm using Crayola brand colored pencils, Crayola crayons. They're my preferred brand, if you will, because I just love the way they work. So I'm going to be using Jungle Green. And I think, let's see, I'm going to use Jungle Green, write it down, and then I'm going to look. Can you guys see that? Oh, it's not nearly as bright as I would like for it to be. So I'm going to, here we are, learning on the fly. I'm going to choose something that's a little more saturated. Let's see, that's what it's like with crayons though. It's a very different coloring experience. Let's see if navy blue shows up better on screen. Here, I'll right over here. Navy blue. That's a little clearer for y'all to see. All right, so just like with colored pencils, I'm making a big assumption here that different colors will respond better or worse with the petroleum jelly, because within each of the colors is a pigment. Even in crayons, even for children's coloring, children's art supplies, there is pigment, and every pigment is going to be a little have a different behavior when you mix it with something like a petroleum jelly, or some people like to use baby oil. I've never brought it into my house, so I wouldn't know, and I'm just going with what I have that's easy. So first, let's do a little bit of crayoning. I just made that word up. Crayoning. So let's go. So regular pressure. So if I was just to be coloring with a crayon, it would look a little something like this. I'm going to bring that closer. So you're going to see a lot of paper in the mix, because crayons are very waxy. It's primarily wax in a crayon with a little bit of pigment. And here's my light pressure, where I'm just kind of gently pushing down on the crayon to create a nice little layer of color. And then if I was to do hard pressure, and I apologize, hard pressure is going to shake my camera. There's no way around that. You see that you can start to, and I'll bring that closer. Maybe I can just zoom it without having to bring things. Whoa, that didn't work out well, did it? There you go. So you see with the hard pressure, you're getting rid of some of that paper. You've got lots of crayon dust, which doesn't blow away easily because it's just a denser thing than colored pencil dust. And you've got some streaks in there. Not that they're bad. I'm just sharing with y'all the difference in the appearances. Okay, I'm going to zoom back out so you can get the full picture again. There we go. All right, so that's what it looks like with just crayon all by itself. Now I'm going to have to move some things over here so you can get everything in full screen. I don't think I need these right now. Push that to the side. Let's dip them in some petroleum jelly and see if we have any changes here. So this is my This is my tub of petroleum jelly that I use just for art. So you'll notice there's some specks in mine. That's not mold. That's not anything scary. That's colored pencil tappings. That's what happens when you put petroleum jelly onto a wax-based coloring tool. What happens is that the two work together so that the petroleum jelly begins to soften the wax that is holding and the pigment of a crayon. In this case, I'm thinking it's going to do the same, or a colored pencil. It softens that wax and softens the color, the pigment, so that it lays down a lot more easily. So I'm going to dip. So this is what I said here. I don't think I said that. I'm going to dip the crayon in the petroleum jelly. So there's going to be multiple ways you can try this. And on that video, and I'm trying not to get a lot on here, but it's a little challenging because crayons are a much blunter tip. Even when I think I've got one that I've not actually used. This is a fairly new box of crayons. Even sharpened and fully just fresh from the factory, crayons are not a very sharp coloring implement. All right, let's see what happens and compare it to what we've got over here. All right. So this is my, regular pressure. Ooh, that's interesting. So we've got, I wouldn't call this a color shift necessarily. Notice I'm having to kind of rotate my crayon around as the wax moves and slides all over. Oh, there's definitely a difference. Like, I honestly would say this pressure that I'm kind of putting down right now is lighter pressure. And yet, there's a little bit of color. Let's move that up. And yet, what I'm noticing is there's a lot less of the paper showing through. It's shinier, definitely. I'm going to zoom that in for y'all so you can take a closer look. So here we are. That's what it looks like, regular pressure. And regular pressure, I need to scoop my paper over so that's centered view for y'all. Regular pressure crayon. That's interesting. With it dipped in petroleum jelly. And it does feel kind of slick. I don't know if you noticed that, but my crayon kind of slid across the paper. I also think that it kind of changed the intensity of the hue just a bit. It seems a little softer. But I also see that there's some, like, I don't want to say it's like a river of petroleum jelly, but it's not like when you use colored pencils with it. There seems to be quite a lot of it because it's really hard to only get a smidgen on the tip of a crayon, unlike a colored pencil. I'm going to put a little bit more. And let's do some light pressure. See what we got. So this is as light as I can get. Okay, interesting. I see the difference. It's not as different. I feel like with the petroleum jelly on my crayon, I don't really have the ability to do light pressure because the petroleum is sitting so much right there on the surface that it inhibits me from just having that light pressure. All I get is like my pencil slide, my crayon sliding around on top of the jelly. Let's try some hard pressure. Now I'm not going to re-dip because there seems to be quite a lot there. I'm going to go on the side and see if I can get that. So here's my hardest pressure, and I'm trying specifically, I need to do a dip, to get the places that has the petroleum jelly on it. There we go. Sorry again for that camera shakeage. To really get firm pressure, I'm moving my table. All right, that's as firm as I can get it, y'all. I cannot get that color to be any more intense. That's interesting. So, wait, let's see what happens when nope, even when I take off the stuff that's starting. So you'll notice when I rotate it that the wax or the buildup there, the petroleum jelly buildup is blue. It's because it's softened the wax of the crayon, creating almost like a paint or a paste, I want to say, a colorful paste, if there was such a product, and then you can smoosh that colorful paste around. That is interesting. All right, let's take a look. The hard pressure over here and the hard pressure over here, These are two very different colors. I mean, this is this is navy blue. This is much darker. Then here we go. I'm doing the same pressure, but the petroleum jelly has decreased the saturation of this color. That's cool. I totally wasn't expecting that. All right, I'm gonna clean this off because the petroleum jelly left on my crayon will continue to soften that crayon. And this way, and I'm just cleaning it off and it'll be totally fine. See, watch. It's almost back to being just a regular old crayon. Yep, there we go. It works like a crayon now. All right, so that's when you dip it just in the petroleum jelly. I don't feel like with this method that I have a whole lot of control over where things are going, but it's still really interesting. But I can see, I don't know if y'all can see, I can see like rivulets of greasy, colorful wax here. And that was not what happened when I used Crayola colored pencils and petroleum jelly. So something about, it's that quantity that I'm getting because the tips are not as fine point. This is something I think would be interesting to find out. Hopefully you think so too, that I'm going to first color some stuff down here. So I'm going to color first alone without any petroleum jelly. And then I'm going to take a cotton swab. Let's see, I'm going to pull one over here. Oh, I had some up there. Oh, I was more prepared than I thought. And I'm going to take a cotton swab and I'm going to put the petroleum jelly on it. Let's see here. I think I should choose a different color so we can have more interesting sheet to look at. Let's see what we got here. I'll use that one that's brand new. This is red orange. This should be bright enough for y'all to see. Let me take a look through my screen. Oh yeah, that's nice and bright. All right. Oh, I forgot to say something. Geez, I get too excited about sharing new ideas. This paper is very specific paper. This is copy paper, but it's not just regular copy paper. This is a premium copy paper. It is a 90 GSM and 24-pound weight that's really bright. The reason why I chose this particular paper is it's the same exact paper, because I'm an Amazon author. I create coloring books like many wonderful artists do, and we publish them through Amazon Publishing, KDP Publishing, and this is the exact same paper weight and style that they use in those books. Gosh, crayon dust does not like to move. This is the same paper that they use, which is, I thought, really important since we're trying to discover, would it be a good idea to color with petroleum jelly and crayons in a coloring book? And we'll find out with this little video of mine. All right, so red, orange. First, I'm gonna color. So let's just do the regular pressure like we did before. Super easy, light pressure. And move that so it's center view for y'all. That is the hardest thing about filming art tutorials and demos, is to remember that y'all need it in the center, not where I can see it. Because the closer it is to me, the easier it is for me to see what I'm doing. And let's do some hard pressure. Y'all, I like this color. This is super fun. I would say this is, I wouldn't have called this red orange, I'd call this vermilion. This is beautiful. Okay, so we used our crayon. Yay. Now I'm gonna go into this cleanish spot of my, I've already done this with, I made a little hole to dip into with, this is a brand new cotton swab as well. I have cotton swabs all over my studio because I use them in all different kinds of art making, especially when I'm working with oil pastels. And I like to reuse them so that I don't feel like I'm wasting natural resources. Y'all know this is right. I don't have to leave this in the view. Or maybe I can do it over here, so it's more visually interesting to look at. All right, let's see. I have no idea what's gonna happen. What happens if I apply this on top? Whoa, well, it's definitely on my swab. And I'm scrubbing. I would call this scrubbing. It is definitely decreasing the intensity of the color. It's not, but it's not like what I expected, which is what? happened over here where the white of the paper, the color got was sinking into the fibers of the paper, the tooth of paper. I still see that. It's almost like it's a stain rather than coloring. I wonder if this would, let's see. Oh, I don't know. Can you see that? It is leaving a little bit of a smudge of color. I wonder if I can, I'm getting Vaseline. Kind of smudgy. I don't know if that's actually obvious on camera. It's not as intense as, to me, this wouldn't be worth the process. I'm not getting enough of a color transfer there to consider that to be a worthwhile art technique to do more than just to see for experiment. All right, I put a little bit more on. I want each side to be, so we're not getting color transfer. Let's see what happens here, if it intensifies our light pressure. Okay, what do you guys think? Because as far as I can tell, except for now, it's shiny. I'm just seeing shiny color. I'm not actually noticing much of a difference. Certainly not in the way that this changed, the way the color looked then over here. All right, I'm gonna get one more Q-tip. Oh, excuse me, cotton swab. And these are actually from HEB too, because HEB rocks. All right, that's my local grocery store, because I'm in small town Texas. Seguin, as my logo says. I would expect something's going to happen here. I've got so much pigment down that this should soften this color here on my paper. Well, definitely leaves a mark. So if you wanted to have decorated cotton swabs, this works really well. Which could be a theater prop of some sort. And it would be non-toxic. Okay, it's definitely decreasing the saturation. Oh, okay, we're pulling out some color. Interesting. Well, that's kind of fun. I can see how you could use that for like creating soft backgrounds. Let me see if I can smoosh it around with my finger. Not as much as if I was this. I'm really kind of scrubbing, y'all. This is not gentle pressure at all, which I'm sure you can hear in the sound of my video. All right, so when you color down first and add some petroleum jelly kind of vigorously with a cotton swab, it really changes the color that you laid down. That's interesting. All right, I should clean this crayon off so that doesn't get ruined over time. There we go. All right, I have one other kind of way of exploring this, which will hopefully answer a lot of the questions that y'all have. And I had a second thing I was going to talk about, but honestly, I think we're going to, the color blends. How does this help with color blends? But this video is already getting a little longer than I expected, so I think we'll do this as a second video. So we will talk about Vaseline, petroleum jelly, and Crayola crayons, and color blends in my next video. Let's finish this one up though. So if I had applied, this one's petroleum jelly is going to be laid down first, just a clean layer, so nothing colored on top of it, or no color in it. And then I'm going to color on top. Let's see. I'm going to choose a new color because it's just too fun to do this with a variety of colors and also get to see how it affects different color. Let's try something that's very different. Let's do what is this one called? Dandelion. How do you spell dandelion before I spell it? Dandy? There's no shame in looking. Lion, because somebody will rant that I spelled it wrong, or it will irritate someone, and I can totally get that. That would drive me crazy too. Now I feel like I want to nope, no lettering, Michelle. Oh, that's nice and bright there. Okay, let's try this out. But first, I need a clean Q-tip, a clean cotton swab here. Let's get some. Here we go. And I'm gonna, this is, I don't know if you can tell because it's white on white on white, but I've got a pretty good layer of petroleum jelly going here. And I'm gonna just do all three. So my light pressure, my regular pressure, and my medium pressure. Excuse me, medium pressure. Hard pressure. Make sure I'm trying my best, and how I'm figuring out if I'm laying down the same layer of Vaseline is because I have all these lights here in the studio for when I film, and I can see this shine. I'm not sure if that comes across on camera though. Okay, I'm just gonna stick this in there. All right, regular pressure and dandelion yellow. Okay. Okay. So I would expect it to be something similar to what happened here because I'm coloring on top and it doesn't really get a chance to soak in. That's pretty intense. Like if you're looking at that, I'm gonna zoom in for y'all. If you were looking at this, it might, you might almost think this was marker instead of crayon. That's interesting. There's definitely no paper showing through. Let me zoom you back out. Okay, let's see, light pressure. See if I can do any light pressure. That's always hard to do when it gets slick. Okay, so I do have the ability to change pressure using this method when you lay down the petroleum jelly first. That's definitely lighter. I am seeing that it is streaky, but where the color is laying down, there's no paper showing through. I need to roll this off. There we go. It's kind of getting in the way. Once again, I think that's because it's just crayon tips are thicker and they take more petroleum jelly. Just naturally, you can't do a little itty bitty dab like you can with a pencil tip. Let me go that one more time. Would you like a look at that so that you can see? Because I don't think that comes across. That's interesting. Doing it in different colors, I think, has been really valuable. This definitely works really well on dandelion. Okay, hard pressure. Let's see what we got. Can I make it darker? Oh, I can. Oh, this is neat. Okay, didn't expect it to be this bright. That definitely looks like marker from afar. Now, the one thing I just realized, we just finished this, and I'm like, oh, yay, good. It's gonna be a short video. Nope. I want to do one thing for you guys so you can see the difference. I mean, I'm so sorry. I didn't regular pressure. I didn't show you what it looks like without any Vaseline on it, without any petroleum jelly. There's regular, light, and let's do some hard. Look at all that crayon dust. There we go. And now we can zoom in so you can see the difference. I think that's kind of fun. Okay, so now let's zoom in so you can see the difference. There we go. So we've got regular pressure with Vaseline, light pressure with Vaseline, hard pressure with Vaseline. And here's what it looks like without. That's super cool because this definitely doesn't look like crayon where this one does. Not that crayon's bad or good, just noting that it does change the nature of the coloring tool. I personally think crayon is super fun. All right, so one of the things that people love to ask when I do videos like this, kind of art exploration, I don't want to set this down. It's got so much goo on it. They want to know, what's it going to look like on the other side? And that's a very good question, especially if you are going to apply this technique in a coloring book, because not all coloring books are printed single side, like with the image here and nothing on the back. Mine are, but not everyone is. So what I did in advance, and even though I was super surprised by all of this, because it's a little bit different than what I'm going to show you, I did this. I've already done this experiment on my own. Obviously, this is a lot tidier and more fun to look at. This was just for curiosity's sake, because people are going to ask, what's it like after it has some time to dry? Because this right now, this is really tacky. I wouldn't like this. You can even see, I think I can smoosh it. Yeah. So I can still smear this really well. It's wet. It's going to stay. Well, you can smear a crayon by itself just a little bit. I wouldn't want to close a book after I had just used Vaseline on a coloring page, whether or not it was with pencils or crayons. Or I wouldn't want a single coloring page left out for someone to sit on because the pigment would transfer. This one I did back on August 29th. And today, I believe today is September 7th, I want to say. Pretty sure. And I did it with Violet. And we did some color blends over here. Or I did some color blends, and we'll talk about that in my next video. So, to the touch, this is dry. And I can't smear it. Like, I have to really... This finger actually has some Vaseline on it. I've got to choose a finger that doesn't. All right, this one has no Vaseline. I have to really work to smear this. Like, I almost feel like I'm probably digging into the crayon itself, and that would actually... Let me see. Yeah, you can smear crayon if you push as hard as I'm pushing. So, this is dry. And you'll notice that the oil has spread a little bit, because you have to use so much when you use a crayon and petroleum jelly. And the big thing you want to see on the backside, I'm sure, yep, it leaves a stain. So my scientific brain says that this is because when you do crayons and Vaseline or petroleum jelly, and this is, yep, it's already starting to stain through. That's my marker, you can see as well. You have to use a considerable amount in order to do this technique, especially because the tips of crayons, like I showed you before, are just much thicker than a colored pencil. I should have gotten a colored pencil to bring to the table, but I did not. But that being said, it's like I had lots of folks asking me on my Vaseline and colored pencil video, what's that like over time? Well, let me show you. So I colored this coloring book, oh gosh, I want to say maybe in 2016. This is not my illustration. This was oh, there it is, 2017. This is not my illustration. I did this at a workshop event that I was attending, and we had colored pencils and Vaseline, and I did every little like element here. That's not marker, that's colored pencil, inexpensive colored pencil, and petroleum jelly. And the whole thing was done that way, except for the gray background and this area right here, that was done with markers. And you'll notice, and everyone's like, well, what's it going to be like? How does it last? This looks the same as when I did it in 2017. And you'll see on the back, there is no staining. Now, the marker did. All that stain that you see here, all that color coming through, that's the gray marker, and that's the blue marker that I used here to create the gradient. Everywhere else, all these blank spaces that you see, that's where I just used colored pencil and petroleum jelly to create these color blends here. Let me put this, zoom it in just a little bit so you can see, and I'll go slowly. So when used in moderation, sorry, that's not center. My apologies once again. When used in moderation, Vaseline with inexpensive coloring tools, super fun. Now, is this archival? I don't know, y'all. I've had this since 2017. It's now 2022. It's been 5 years. It still looks great. I have it in my little sleeve so that I can put it into a book and it doesn't get all wrenched up, because I really like what I did. I think it's super fun. So it works. And with colored pencils, not with crayons. Now with crayons, you're going to have this sort of effect. But like this one also, my husband Steve did this one. This is one of my illustrations that got printed out at an event, and he did Vaseline and colored pencil on this whole thing, and there's no stain. but with colored pencil, you use very little Vaseline. Not so with colored crayons and Vaseline. Does that mean you shouldn't use them? Absolutely not. But it means that, you know, perhaps rather than putting them into your coloring books, do these on pages if you feel like exploring this technique. And next time you see me, I'm going to be talking about crayons and color blends. And when you see what happens when you use petroleum jelly with crayons, I think you might be tempted to try this on a coloring sheet where it really wouldn't matter that the other side was having a little bit of an oil stain situation going on. Hope you found this fun. Talk to you later.